Okay.
We are back and we're recording. So basically, the intent of today's training is to start the ball. This is a process. I'm not expecting people to walk away from this and be an instantaneous expert in writing Medicare supplements when the client is going through underwriting. Okay, but what I'm trying to do is give people the appetite and give agents the opportunity to write more business all year long, okay? To a degree, when you're writing turning 65s on MedSups, it's very, very simple, isn't it? If they're 6 months within their Part B date, we don't have to worry about their medical conditions, their medications, all that kind of stuff. They could be, 5 foot tall and 200 pounds, not a problem, okay? But there's a certain amount of angst, if you will, about I get calls frequently from agents, hey, I've got somebody who's 69, they've been on employer group, they activated their B, do they still have to go underwriting, all this kind of thing. And there's a little bit of a perception that if you've got a client that you could write a MedSup to, but they've got to go through health questions and underwriting, that people are just nervous as hell and potentially walking away from deals because they're just not sure how to go about the process. Is the person even going to go through? And so what we wanted to do was, number one, talk about the opportunity to reach out to Medicare beneficiaries that are maybe 68 years old and older, what's in it for you, why you want to do it, and what companies you can go to get the person through underwriting that maybe has insulin-dependent diabetes. Talking with Joey, there are carriers that will take your diabetics as long as they don't have serious other issues stacked on top and different things like that. So I just want to give everybody an opportunity to understand that while we all count on renewals, MedSup people that are on Plan F, and Joey will talk about a little bit, I don't want to steal too much thunder there, but you need to be reaching out to those people. So this will be the start of a learning process. We'll try to spend some more time and energy on this. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Joey up at Senior Market Sales in Omaha. And we want to help people have the opportunity to write 3, 4, 5 pieces of underwritten MedSup business a month, which would be another $1,500 to $2,000 in commissions. And I don't know about most people here, but if you could raise your income by $18,000 to $24,000 a year, for most people, I think that's worth paying attention to, and that's at the minimum. So anyway, I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to turn it over to Joey. You should be able to see her note sheet here, and I'm going to shut up and let Joey talk.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Okay, so I have a lot of agencies out there like yourself. What do we do in the lockout time, and how do we build, write more business and build that? So I have a lot of agencies too that that's their sweet spot. They only write underwritten business. They don't, if they get referrals for the turning 65 or they network on the turning 65, they don't invest any money or time in marketing to those people. They spend all their time invested in the 68 and older. And so I kind of just did some why they do it. And the first thing that all of them say, and in my experience has been, is once a lot of folks turn 65, be it that they signed up through their HR department or they, however they signed up for their first plan, they haven't heard back from that agent. And by 68, 69 years old, they're getting their first, their premiums jumped up, and they want to know why Fred across the street is paying less than them. So they're looking. The other agents are looking for them. Like I said, I have a lot of agencies that's all they write, and they're targeting folks that are on F plans with the G, moving them into a G. They're also targeting the ones, that are just out there, the 70 and older, because they know that their agent probably hasn't talked to them. As well as there's a lot of agents out there, they write it, and most carriers, after 6 years, they're not getting full comp, and so but they don't go into it. So that you're going to lose that. You're losing an opportunity to keep that business, keep getting paid on it, and other agencies are going after your client anyway. So you should be the one to rewrite it. So
hey, Joey,
go ahead.
I'm gonna interrupt for just a quick second. Can you do me a favor, and on your screen, can you maybe magnify your screen so that way the font size and everything on your cheat sheet is blown up a little bit? Go into your view. It should be in your view command.
There we go.
And then just do a zoom.
Is that better?
Oh, that's perfect.
There you go.
Perfect. So basically, if I heard Joey correct here, just to kind of expand a little bit, number one, if you've been in the business 6 years or longer, and you've written MedSup business that's 6 years old, those renewals potentially are falling off the books now. So by reaching out to your old book of business and seeing if you can't give them some premium relief by moving from an F to a G or an F with a different carrier, what have you, you're going to see an increase in your revenue stream, because after 6 years with many carriers, 7 with some, you no longer are getting renewals, or it's a very minimal amount. And secondly, as Joey's pointed out, I know of an agency out in the East Coast. They write $4 million a year in MedSup premium. $4 million. Think about that for a minute. And it's all underwritten business. So what they're doing is they're reaching out to the people, like Joey's saying, who are 68, 69, 70 years old, haven't heard from an agent because they're not being serviced by their agent, and they're going in and saving them 40, 50 bucks a head. And if it's a husband and wife, that's $100 a month potentially. And they're getting new commissions, new renewals. So don't count on your MedSup business being this impervious block of business that you're never going to lose renewal on. So anyway, I'm done talking.
Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of agencies out there, that's all they go after. And don't be afraid. I mean, and it's because most carriers pay all the way to 80 full comp. So we don't stop at the 70-year-olds is my other thing. And again, the big misconception out there is that your clients are too sick. They're on too many meds. So that's what I did is I put together different carriers that are competitive or more relaxed in their underwriting rules, and kind of giving you some direction. The first thing I said is get educated. Take a look at your key carriers, and take a look at your underwriting rules. Take a look get familiar with their health questions and their declinable drug list. That's going to be your most valuable resource. Your underwriting departments. So with your carriers, there a lot of them, like Cigna, Mutual of Omaha, and Medico in particular. I mean, those three are really, really good. They have underwriting link or lines where you can call or email them, preferably call, and they'll give you the answer. They'll talk to you. You can pre-screen. Even and like Cigna is one of my favorites, because on their Express app you can actually pre-screen or pre-quote and go through the health questions, and they'll tell you if it's going to be a preferred or a standard rate or declined. So what I did is I went through and I just kind of went through the health questions. So I'm going to start with Cigna, some of the most common declinable conditions out there that people stray away from is diabetes, like Daryl said. And the misconception out there is that it's going to be, if they're on insulin, they're automatically going to be declined. No, they're not. Each carrier has different rules. COPD. A lot of folks think with COPD they're automatically going to be declined. No, they're not. and as well as cancer. And then the other one, the big one, is heart conditions, particularly AFib or defibrillators. So that's the kind of the key points that I wanted to go by. And I've done some snippets, and I'll send everything to Daryl, and it'll get out to you. So it's kind of a little cheat sheet, and then know where your resources are as far as the declinable drug list and knowing your health questions. So the first thing with Cigna is that 5-year cancer look back, which is a little bit farther back. So know that if they've been diagnosed, so if you have somebody, and I see it a lot, where they may have had bladder cancer or breast cancer or prostate cancer, but they haven't had any treatment or follow-up medications or anything for the past 5 years, it will get accepted. Diabetes is a 2-year look back. So with Cigna, they can be on as many as 50 units of insulin per day, or if they're on if they're taking just oral medications for type 2, they cannot have 3 or more medications. So if you've got somebody that's only on 2 diabetic medications, which is common, but then they're also on blood pressure meds, as long as it's not more than 3, they're going to get accepted. And that's probably one of my most common ones, where people are calling and looking for, what can I do with my guy that's diabetic. And we'll go through the other carriers and what their rules are, but Cigna's more liberal with it than others. And then obviously anybody that's diabetic with tobacco use, and then having complications with neuropathy or any heart or retinopathy, past diabetes, they're going to get declined. So
let me go back. Let me go back to that, Joey, for just a minute. So basically, when an agent's sitting down with someone and they're type 2 diabetes, so they're taking metformin, glipizide, glyburide, little tablets like that. So if I've got somebody that's taking their metformin and they're taking glipizide, and they maybe take some lisinopril for high blood pressure.
Correct.
They're going to go through underwriting. They're going to be accepted.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's understand. Go ahead.
Well, and that's an important issue, guys. And I'm somewhat guilty of this too, is thinking that, well, okay, this person is a walking time bomb and all that type of thing. Let's go find something else. But this has been a very big eye opener, and I'm going to put Trish on the spot here real quick here, so you're getting some advance notice. But I know Trish has written a fair amount of underwritten business with Cigna and done that telephone interview, because I know some people are not real crazy about the telephone interview. So, Trish, would you mind taking a minute or so just to talk about your experience with Cigna and doing that telephone interview once you've taken the Medsup app?
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, it's been real easy. As I'm doing the paperwork, I have
Hey, Trish, stop for a minute. Can you pick up the phone rather than using the speakerphone?
On myself.
Oh, it's just coming through really garbly. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's been really easy. As I'm doing the paperwork, we just call to do the phone verification. And in 2 or 3 minutes, it's done. You put the verification number on the application. It doesn't mean they're approved necessarily, but that phone process has to be done whether they're in front of you or Cigna has to chase the client down and catch them by phone. So I just do it while I'm doing paperwork.
Yep. And to add to that, I have a lot of clients, because you can do their online app, so they don't necessarily have to be in front of you. If you have a client on the phone and you're doing their online express app, you can then conference call and do the interview right then, which speeds up the process, and you'll know within a short amount of time if they're approved or not.
Yeah, and that's another nice key to this is I know not everyone has great technology and computer skills, but it's something that we can definitely work with you on a little bit if it's something you want to do. But you could actually reach out to your existing book of business over the phone, do the quoting, do everything, and do the online application sitting there at your desk with doing a three-way call with the client and the tele-underwriter. So, your clients that are out in maybe Leavenworth, or that maybe move down to the Lake of the Ozarks, or they move to, Texas, and you got a Texas license, you can still write those people without having to physically go see them, guys. So I just think that's a really cool opportunity. So go ahead, Joey.
Yeah. So anyway, and Cigna is really very simple with that. And again, anyway, so any other questions on the diabetic part?
Can you scroll your screen just a little bit to the right? Stop. Perfect.
Got it. Okay, so COPD, a lot of is one that most carriers are going to decline right away. So with Cigna, they're going to do a 2-year look back. They will accept non-smoker if there's no use of oxygen in the past 2 years and no other chronic conditions. So if you have somebody with COPD and they are diabetic, they're probably not going to get approved. But the most important thing is that they have not had any use of oxygen in the 2 years, and they don't have, another one is they will get approved if they're high blood pressure, but like I said, it's not going to be a chronic condition. So COPD used to be that it was an automatic decline. This one is you've got a good chance at it. So take a look at what their treatment has been, that they haven't been hospitalized at 2 or more times in the last 2 years over it, and they're probably going to get, and they don't have oxygen use, they're going to get approved. As far as on the cardiac side, AFib is one of the most declined right off the bat. If they've been diagnosed, they're going to be declined. Cigna has recently changed. And what's good about that is that if they have not had any treatment or surgeries and they haven't gone into AFib in 2 years, they will get approved. And that's something that a lot of carriers won't do. And we'll go over that with Medico as well. I know Medico isn't so competitive in your areas, but it's a great fallback for somebody that really is looking for some, premium relief. But anyway, so that one, those are the 3 most declinable in regards to. And I also put together, and I'll send this out to you guys, is I just went through, Cigna doesn't have, but I went through their underwriting guides, and Cigna doesn't have it as clearly as these other ones do. So when we get to those, I'll show you where you have great resources to look back on. So, as far as those 3, rheumatoid arthritis is always going to get declined. So I didn't put down, there's other ones there, and I'll send those, I'll forward those conditions on with the paper, with the cheat sheets. So Aetna, again, is a required telephone interview, and they're not going to be one that you go to for AFib or different things, but they are a great one to go back to for COPD, and they're not one for diabetes. So that's one to always take a look at. But so I printed that out. But with COPD, any lung disorder, as long as they're not on oxygen, but they will use, if you do have a use of a nebulizer, they will accept you. But if they're still smoking, obviously they're not. I think one of my agencies out in New Jersey that only does underwritten business, they purposely go after. They take a look at the drug list and they purposely go after these ones that are not on oxygen but have a nebulizer, because they know nobody else is writing them. So they've increased their, I'll give you one agent. Purposely went out, they did a campaign targeting 72 to 75-year-olds. and increased. They went from writing 2 apps per week to writing 7 apps per week. Just
on the
talking to-
COPD.
Just on the COPD. Because for so long nobody was writing it. They didn't have Aetna before, purposely went to Aetna for the COPD and did a 6-month campaign. And that was their results.
And now, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm going to take a little bit of a segue because I'm thinking of it. Some of the agents have said, well, some of the carriers, the MedSups, may have a pre-existing condition limitation. If that applies, isn't it normal that if the client has a MedSup now and they switch to a different one, go through underwriting, that their pre-exist is satisfied because they've already had coverage through another MedSup? So it basically goes away. The only time the pre-X applies is if you have a person who did not have a supplement prior to this, correct?
Correct. And one of the things that all of these carriers are going to do is they take a look at what you've written in regards to your health question responses. The next thing they're going to take a look at is the medications that you've done, and they're going to check them to make sure they match when they pull up their meds. The third thing they do is they take a look at their MIB, and they do their 2 or 3 or whatever look back. And as long as everything's consistent with how the questions were answered and consistent with those medications, it's going to get approved. I spent about a half an hour with the Cigna underwriter last week just kind of going through the health questions and their declinable drug list. And we'll cover that. But on a declinable drug list, and this is pretty consistent with the other carriers, you have medications that are used for specific conditions. Like you may have a medication that is there that's specifically used for chronic COPD, but it also could be used for asthma. If it's just being used for asthma, it may be on the declinable list, and they'll call it out saying, "Oh, okay, it's not for COPD, it's for asthma." But they'll check it as it's one that's used as an ad needed as opposed to chronic daily. Another good one is there's a few blood pressure meds that are also used for major cardiac conditions. But as long as because they'll ask on the medication list, they'll say, diagnosis. And as long as you're putting for high blood pressure and they can see, they're going to take the look back, and as long as they can confirm that it's been used for high blood pressure. Occasionally Cigna will ask for a doctor's confirmation. And that's always the one thing that takes the longest is for the doctor to complete that confirmation this has been prescribed for hypertension. They will get approved. So that makes sense?
Perfect.
Okay, so that was with Aetna. So Mutual of Omaha companies. Now Mutual is not as generous or good as far as with underwriting, but they do have great programs for underwritten business. Their comp rate, and such is a little bit better. And they were just here in the office yesterday meeting with us. They have they have different cash for apps programs. So when you're doing underwritten business, they are looking to comp the agents a little bit more. So anyway, so with their cancer, and the other thing too is their cancer look back is only 2 years compared to the 3 or 5 years with other carriers. With their diabetes, most carriers, they will accept diabetes with insulin, and it does say is they'll ask if it's controlled. So let me go to that one. How they look at a condition being controlled. So basically, if there has been no changes in treatment or medications in the look back period, it's considered controlled. With diabetes, as long as they are not taking more than 2 medications in conjunction to the insulin or the oral meds for diabetes, they will be approved. So they're also one of the easiest carriers to write with if you're using their online app. especially like Daryl said, talking to your people that you already have, your client, your current book of business. You can do business with them 3 different ways, which is terrific. First off is you can actually email them the app and they can fill it out themselves. The next one is you fill it out, and if they have email them for signed signature. The third one is if they don't have email, which a lot of our folks over 70 don't, they do a voice signature. And you don't have to do the phone interview, because what they'll do is, as long as the meds and the MIB match up and with the health questions, it's going to get approved, and it's just their voice signature from that. But if it doesn't match, then they will reach out to them and go through the health questions. They'll want an explanation on where it doesn't match up.
So if I can go back to what you were talking about there, what you're saying is, if someone you've got a client who's 72 years old, doesn't have email, they're 30 miles away, you can actually, as the agent, go to the Mutual of Omaha website, start the online application, complete it, and then when it needs a signature to finalize the application, you just get the client on the phone with Mutual Omaha, and they do a signature over the telephone, basically, with their voice. Do you consent to do whatever? Okay.
Correct.
So again,
Mutual reaches out to them, so you don't even have to. I mean, they reach out to them.
Okay.
For the voice.
So the agent would want to let the client know, hey, you're going to get a phone call within the next 2 hours, 24 hours, whatever the time frame is.
Correct. And if they don't answer, which you know as well as I do, the caller ID comes up with an unknown or an 800 number. A lot of them let it go to voicemail. They leave a message where you can call in and it records. They don't necessarily. They could call in at 2 o'clock in the morning, record their, and it's a automated response, and they have their voice signature completed.
Okay.
Okay. So Medico, I know, is not competitive down there, and the reason why I included it in is because of their, and I didn't finish, is because they're so, they're pretty liberal on a lot of things. They're not on, they do not take anything with insulin, so, or injections in general. So if you've got somebody that's getting cortisone shots, for knees, they're not going to get accepted, but they will. Let me get this. So for Medico, I wrote this all out, but they will get credit. They do get for a lot of others. So possible declinable conditions. So if you have somebody with history of stroke, as long as they're not automatically out. So if you've had somebody that's had a TII, but it's been within the look back, and they haven't had any other hospitalizations or complications associated with that stroke, or they'll get accepted. One of the COPD requiring the use of nebulizer and not on oxygen. So they'll take a look at COPD, and if they don't have other chronic, they'll get accepted with that, as long as they're not on oxygen. Medical conditions with multiple conditions, such as high blood pressure, cholesterol, heart conditions, they're really good on that one. Frequent chiropractic treatments, a lot of carriers will decline on that. These guys are pretty liberal with that. The big one is the pacemakers and defibrillators, and AFib. If they can show that it's controlled, meaning that they have not gone into AFib, that their pacemakers, they have not had complications with their pacemaker, they're non-smokers, and they're not diabetic, that's the only carrier right now that's, as far as with a pacemaker, that as long as they're doing really well with it, they'll get accepted. I just had an agent tell me they had somebody here in Omaha. He had his pacemaker put in 2.5 years ago, and no other conditions, fairly healthy. He's 72 years old and was able to get underwritten. So that's a great one to go to. So you can see Another one too with the neuropathy, as long as it's non-diabetic, it'll get approved. But they've got great resources for you to take a look at. And we do expect, Medico just sent out notifications this week where they're going to be looking at Plan G decreases nationally. We don't have an updated list of the states that will be affected by that, but I'm sure as they get that rolled out and approved in the different areas, it's something to fall back on. Because in most of the reason I included the Medico is when you do have people with these chronic conditions, they've been ignored by their agents, or with these other conditions, they've been ignored by their agents, and their premiums are hiking up there. So Medico may not be the lowest premium out there, but they still may be $30, $40, $50 less per month than what they're currently paying. So
one of the things that I've seen, just to kind of expand on that, is I have seen, and keep in mind, I haven't been out in the field necessarily doing personal production for a while, but I've ran across the folks who bought their meds up through their State Farm agent or their American Family agent. And that's a $50, $60 a month higher premium. You're going to have people who signed up with Bankers Life, Bankers Casualty, that signed up with some ankle biters, somebody who just showed up at their door knocking when they turn 65. And these are not necessarily, the best value plans out there. Well, if they started off high at 65, they're going to be high at 70 or 72 or 75. So I think that's what Joey's trying to bring the point in that even though if you go on quoting and you're looking at, well, I never write business with Mutual of Omaha for turning 65s because I don't like them. I don't like their rates. It's cheaper with blah, 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 or Medico or whomever. When you run across the people that have these health conditions, they may be paying $250 a month for a supplement, needing some premium relief, and you can get them a carrier that's $200 a month that will take their health condition, whereas if they were in clean health, they go to carrier X and they get that same thing for $150. Well, okay,
right.
That's fine. But because of their health, you're still able to get them into a $600 a year premium savings. So that's part of the reason why we have multiple carriers available to us to do that. So, and I'm just excited about the opportunity to target people who are more likely to respond to direct mail, to get activity for agents that you can, throughout the year, get 2-3 underwritten Medsup sales a week. I think it's a definite possibility. It's just going to require a little bit of work and learning something new. So I'm done talking.
Yeah, and I see it repeated. I see it repeated with these key agencies across the country consistently, where they are not they do the direct mails and they work their existing book of business for referrals. Where and word of mouth is one of the most positive things. So if you're saving George $50 and the neighbor knows, he's had some, he's on some meds and such, and he's talking at coffee in the morning to his buddies, they're very happy to give your name out, saying, give these guys a call. They saved me, they can save you. And I don't have to tell you guys how to work a good referral. Just know that when you're saving them the money, they like to talk about it because they already heard from Fred that they're paying less and they want to know how they can pay less. So, and what I pulled up here is Cigna's declinable drug list, and I just wanted to be able to show that what they do is use these resources because they will list the different medications and if they're taking that medication for that condition, if it will be declined or if on the preferred or standard, or if they can get approved. So a good one to take a look at is if you look at the medication here for Parkinson's, if they are indeed taking it for Parkinson's, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will get declined on their preferred rate, but their ARLIC product will approve them. So there's also some other ones. If you take a look, here.
And just to clarify that a little bit, Cigna Supplemental, that's the Chillick Cigna Health and Life MedSup. That's one company, one rate. That's the ARLIC or American Retirement Life. And then isn't there also Loyal in there too?
Loyal American is another one. Yeah, Loyal American is another one of them. But the other thing is too is if you notice, so there's a couple of medications here on the COPD, but if they're taking it for asthma, they'll get declined if they're taking it for COPD. They will not get declined if they're taking it for another non-chronic condition.
Okay. So looking at your chart, if there's an X in that gray column to the right, that means it's declined for preferred.
For that condition.
For that condition. But if it's not an X in that very last column, they might be able to get approved at a slightly higher premium.
Correct.
Okay, there you go.
Correct. I was trying to think of this one here for peripheral vascular disease. It occasionally is diagnosed for high blood pressure, for hypertension. So if it's not being prescribed for a more chronic heart condition, but just for blood pressure, they'll get approved on the preferred. That's why it's important when you take a look at where you fill in your medications and it asks for why it's diagnosed, why they're taking it, that you put in the accurate diagnosis.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you want me to cover?
Time frame. What are you seeing? So I've got a client comes to me and they would like to get a MedSup, and today's February 15th. If they've got a MedSup now, clearly I don't, as an agent, want them to cancel their existing MedSup until we have an approval and a policy on their new one. So what are you seeing, assuming the app comes in clean, we're not having to, fix something or what have you like that, but do you have a rough time frame to say, okay, if you're going to replace, give your client at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 days, whatever?
Yeah, well, Aetna's going to be the slowest. So regardless of how you submit, if you do their electronic submission, if you do a paper submission, that's going to be the slowest. And that's why I always recommend with anytime it requires a phone interview, is do the conference call or do it right there, because that will take that element of time out. But Cigna, if you do their Express app online, you can and everything matches up on their MIBs. They don't have to reach out and get any kind of verification outside of that. And you do the health question is complete. I've seen it turn around in 48 hours.
Really?
So, yes, when you're on underwritten business. Sometimes, but if it's your first app that you've submitted since you've been contracted, they're going to verify. It's going to take longer for them to verify you than it is the client. But as long as that's why I say, if you ever want tutorials on how to use their online contracting, I'll be happy to walk you through that or get you direction on that. Now, I will tell you, we did have some complaints and delays with Cigna in regards to time frame, but there was a lot of GI. There was some market disruption in different areas, and so there was a lot of guaranteed issue applications coming in, and those were taking. They really slowed down, and it kind of got caught up depending on which underwriter it fell into. If there was a medication or something that was showing up, they were pulling them, and sometimes not necessarily. So it was kind of random, but they were really dragging their feet on those open enrollment or on those GI contracting, meaning they wanted more verification of loss of coverage. They wanted more verification that it was, or of their proof of credible coverage prior. So that's something that's not even related to the underwritten business. So, but generally on underwritten business, there's a faster track, especially if you use their Express app. When it comes in through paper, and you didn't do the phone interview on the spot, expect at least 2 weeks. Okay, so Mutual of Omaha is you can, if everything matches up and they don't have to do a phone interview, they get the voice signature or verification. I've seen it turn around in 24 to 48 hours. Medico is the same. One of my favorite things about Medico on their My Enroller is I've sat down. This is my personal experience, and I hear it from my clients, especially in Colorado. They write a lot of it, but you can fill everything in, do the phone interview on the spot, and they've been pulling out in the driveway, and they get an email saying your client's been approved. It can be that fast. If they have to, there's things that aren't matching up on the MIB and the meds, then they're one of the fastest ones. It's generally within a week. Okay.
So I'm thinking more from a standpoint of Sally Gray here has a MedSup with Brand X. Making the switch is going to save her $50 a month. She wants to go ahead and do it. But she's got her premiums for Brand X coming out of her bank account on the 5th of every month. Yeah. And so we've got to allow that time frame to get Brand X to stop taking it out so that Sally doesn't get hit with Brand X premium withdrawal and then the new carrier.
Correct. So and what I always and I'm sure you train the exact same way as always. At that is at that time that they want to move forward and you're waiting for approval, is go ahead and call the current carrier and ask them to put it on direct bill, so they won't do that automatic withdrawal. And it gives her that grace period.
Okay, so if you take the application, you're waiting for your approval, and using a scenario like now it's the 15th, have the client call the carrier, change from automatic withdrawal to direct, so that way she doesn't have to do a 30-day out effective date to give you time to do everything. Okay.
Correct. Got it. And like I said, Aetna is always really slow, or can be really slow. So I always recommend that you do that with Aetna, because then if for whatever reason they are denied, all they got to do is make that phone call back and say, please put me back on my automatic payment plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And the underwriting guides, typically those are in the kits that you get for the plan. Now, I know like Aetna is really good at putting together a folder with all the stuff in it. Mutual of Omaha, their stuff comes a little bit more disjointed, but, we can, and those of you, I know not everyone's got their agent login set up for, all the different companies that they work with, but we can definitely help you that, or if you just need it and you don't want to go through the rigmarole on the website, if you let me know that you need an underwriting guide or a declinable drug list for carrier X, Y, and Z, I'll pull it down and email it to you or print it out for you, whatever like that. And you can just have that as a reference piece. So,
and I do have, I have them all on PDFs too, Daryl, that I can email to you so you have them on file.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Any questions out there from anybody else? Any comments? Anything? I haven't muted anybody, so. Okay, I'm going to take that as a big fat no. Anything else you want to add, Joey?
No, as you guys, I highly recommend, if you have any questions in between and you're on the fly. A few of you have actually called me say, Joey, hey, I just met with this person, or I'm on my way to meet with this person, and da da da. I'll look it up quick for you. So I'm more than willing to help you, because it'll get to the point where you're going to recognize the medications and the conditions, and you're going to know what carrier to go to. And you'll find, I mean, it's all about increasing your revenues, and there's so much business to be written out there. I'm more than happy to help you get acclimated and become the underwriting expert.
Well, and the thing I look at this too is so many people on Medicare, they don't have this big bag of gold that all their bill money comes from. And it's a way for us as agents to bring value to these 70 and older clients who are just, they've been told, stay where you're at, you can't do anything because you've got COPD, you've got diabetes, and they're swallowing hard on very high premiums because they made maybe a poor MedSup choice when they first became eligible for Medicare. Well, folks, isn't that what we'd like to do, is serve our clients? And if you can save somebody $50 a month or more, isn't that going to, A, help them, B, make you feel like you've done something valuable for that client? And then when you add in, you may be able to help them with a burial policy, a final expense. You may be able to give them a dental plan with that premium savings. You could very easily walk out the door with an Underwritten Medsup app. Generally speaking, your commission's 20% or higher of the first year premium for the next 6 or 7 years. So you've got Sally Gray here, you're writing her a Medsup. She's 75 years old in Missouri, and you're looking at a $250 a month premium versus the $300 she's paying now. Well, you take that $250 times 12, that's a $3,000 annual premium instead of the $3,600 that she's paying. Well, take that times 20%, you've got a $600 commission for the year. You'll get about $400 of that advanced if you're taking advance. And you've helped her. And then if you sell a dental and you make another $100 on the dental, that's significant, guys. If you write 2 of those a week, if I can get $1,000 bump up in income every week on advances plus my as earned coming in later, and I'm a hero to my Medicare client because I just saved them $600 a year, that for me is the sweet spot in this, is bringing value as an agent, helping people with premium relief.
Exactly. It's something to, like Daryl touched on. There's so many people out there that they got their MedSup through their PC agent or through their HR department's designated person or whatever upon turning 65, and you have all these folks that haven't had any follow-up since. They just thought that's what they had to pay. I have a agent out of Indiana that is multi-states, and all he's doing is reaching out. He works a list each week. He'll take a zip code and he'll work within 30 miles of it, and he's doing it all over the phone. And he's averaging, I think last week, he turned in 12 apps. He's in Indiana, and they were all out of Texas. And
okay.
Every one of them were over 70. So
if he's getting an average of $400 advanced, that's a $5,000 a week. He
wrote Mutual of Omaha, and right now in Texas, any business that issues by March 31st on underwritten business is a $200 bonus for 5 or more apps. So do the math on that. He just paid for his marketing for the year.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are there direct mail pieces that are specifically designed to attract that segment of the business that you already have done and ready to go?
Yeah. So Kramer Direct has got a great one that's kind of a knockoff. Mutual of Omaha has a really great direct mail piece that prints. You can specify the ages that you want for the premium in that area on their G plan, and you can do it for like 68, 72, 74, or 65, 70, 75, however you want to do it in that mail piece. And they will do up to 5,000 pieces per quarter, where they do all the printing, and they have a large library of postcards to choose from. But that particular one has been a very successful campaign. And if you want to do it with another carrier, then Kramer Direct Target Leads, that's been a really good one to go to. Interesting enough, yesterday we had Mutual was here talking about that particular program, and they said that's always been a successful campaign, but they've also gotten a high return on the dental postcard and cross-selling Medicare. So, because as well as I do, Medicare doesn't cover anything above the chin. Everybody always asks. 80% of your clients you're meeting with, they'll ask, what about dental? So now Mutual and Emeritus or GPM have a great plan. And you don't sell dental to sell dental, but it's great if they do end up going with it, but it's an opportunity to talk to them about their MedSup.
And you'll find those postcards on the Mutual of Omaha agent website. I know Joey sent me that email yesterday, and I was going to go down and take a look at it too. So as I understand it, Marilee and everyone else, basically, if you want to mail to people age 68 to 75, you could design the postcard saying, and it might be something about, are you paying too much? Look at these rates for someone 68, 72, and 75. So if you're mailing it specifically to ages 68 to 75, they look at this postcard. It's a name they know, Mutual of Omaha. It says, if you're 68, you could be paying $134, and they look at the checkbook and see they're paying $172. Obviously, that's going to potentially generate a phone call saying, why is this like that? So now, and if we can get the postcards printing for free up to 5,000, I do have a mail house here in Kansas City that will do the postage at a very discounted rate. We're looking at 28 cents a piece for postcards, or sometimes even a little bit less. So you get the postcards for free. You mail out 1,000 times 28 cents. That's $280 for the mailing, and your first Underwritten Medsup more than pays for that.
And Mutual of Omaha actually too, on the names, they have, you can get into that. I think it's USA Data or Data USA, whichever, but it's as little as 4 cents a name on the list.
Okay. Excellent question, Marilee. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, well, if there's nothing else, and if Joey's got nothing else, I'm going to let everybody go back to their day. So love to hear your feedback. Again, the intent here was not to have you walk away being an expert, but to give you that nudge to say, hey, there's a market, there's an opportunity here to do good for your Medicare clients that aren't getting contacted by anybody, and also to generate a good income for yourself. So
okay, and I'll send cheat sheets to Daryl for you guys to use.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Unless anybody's got anything else, that's it for the day. Thank you all for attending.
Thanks
you, Joey,
Daryl,
for your help.
Thank you. Bye bye.